Hello friends, it's time for another Microtech review. Tonight we're going to take a look at the LUDT, which is an automatic folder. The UDT, or Underwater Demolition Team, was Microtech's first product way back in '94. This is a cool knife now. I can't imagine what folks thought of it 25 years ago. The L in the name of this knife stands for large. The original UDT was smaller and very, very cute. This knife is also cute and reasonably sized, but also badass and sturdy, like a Tasmanian devil or a horseshoe crab. This knife, like other Microtechs, is genuinely useful, but also functions as something of a fashion statement. You've got a useful knife, but you also probably like expensive shoes and Ray-Bans, or maybe that's just me. But you definitely have good taste, and you look good while you cut things. And judging by the name of the knife, maybe you cut stuff underwater. I don't really know. So let's take a look at why this is one of the best automatic folders around. Features. Like we said earlier, this knife is an automatic folder with a 3.42-inch blade. The handle is made of 6061 T6 aluminum, and it comes in many striking colors. Though personally, I always buy the green Microtechs, and I like the black blades, though you can get one with a satin blade or the stone-washed. Whatever you want, they make it. The blade is made of Bowler M390. That's my favoriteest steel, though they're now made of 204P, which is the American equivalent of M390, and will give you equally impressive performance. These weigh in at around 3.6 ounces, and the overall length with the blade open is 8.03 inches. The pocket clip is made of springy steel, and the screws are all the proprietary tri-headed Microtech ones that look so awesome. Oh, and most importantly, it comes with this dangly rope. Yeah, I can't tell you why I like that rope, but I do. It really rounds out the whole package, I think. And while we're looking at it, let's actually compare this thing to some other Microtechs. So here's a ridiculous Halo 6, and here's the much more reasonably sized Ultratech. So you kind of see that the LUDT it's a reasonably sized knife. Why should you choose this Microtech? These days, the two Microtech folders are the LUDT and the SOCOM. The SOCOM is quite large, while the LUDT is smaller. You can get an automatic SOCOM or a manual. The LUDT is only available as an auto, which is fine. It's an amazing auto. If you're choosing between these two, there's no difference in quality. It really just comes down to whether you want a larger or a smaller knife. That's really it. The SOCOM is, I think, like $50 more expensive or something, but like I said, it's much bigger. How does the LUDT perform? Well, first let's take a look at how the action feels. This thing opens with some serious authority. Shortly after I purchased it, I handed this knife to a lady who enjoys Microtechs. She mashed the button, and the knife flew right the fuck out of her hands several feet across the room. So fear not, this thing's gonna fucking open when you press the button. The button provides enough resistance and is recessed so that it shan't open in your pants, causing some sort of blade and ball-related disaster. Also, the button is very satisfying to press, which is important. Microtechs are as fun to play with as they are to actually use, and this one is no different. The actions lockup, both open and closed, is extremely impressive. Closed, there is zero play in the blade. None. Open, there is zero play in the blade. Microtech famously manufactures their knives to absurdly close tolerances, and the benefits of that certainly show here. This thing is fucking sturdy. The jimping on the blade feels great, and the handle is textured in all the right places to give you a good grip. Your fingers want to stay in place, and there's little chance of your hand sliding up onto the blade, unless you're doing something really weird and ridiculous with this knife. My fingers all fit perfectly onto the handle, though you may find it a bit crowded if you have large hands. However, it's all a trade-off. This knife is very reasonably sized to be carried every day and would obviously be bigger and heavier if the handle were longer. Speaking of carrying it, this knife is so small and light you almost forget it's in your pocket, and you can pull it out of there in a flash, grabbing it right by the dangly rope. And this knife was very, very sharp from the factory. Very sharp. And the blade is built to do real hard work. I use my Microtech OTFs for real stuff, and I use this thing for real stuff. This is a great shop knife. You can open it in a flash, cut what you need, and it takes up very little room. The blade is really thick at the base to give you some leverage to chop, but it has this steady taper to the very sharp point, letting you make really fine cuts. So for my taste, this is definitely what I would call a tool knife, for sure. I carry my Halo 6, my Cypher, or an Ultratech for defense, but this blade is really a workhorse, ready to cut shrink tubing, rope, prune a plant, and with that fine tip, you could really use it to fill in for the X-Acto knife that rolled into the blackest abyss that is the dirty floor underneath your workbench. Hell, I actually carved some wood with this thing about an hour ago. Don't get me wrong, in a pinch you could absolutely defend yourself with this knife, and I wouldn't hesitate to, but I personally prefer one of the double-edged blades for that or my ridiculous Halo. What would I change about the LUDT? Nothing. This knife is great, and there's a reason it's still around after all these years. The size is right, the weight is right, the blade is the right thickness and shape, and the action is sound as a pound, whatever that means. I guess they could add more dangly rope. I mean, why not 2 or 3 feet of it? The guys I talk to at the indoor range, if they're right, paracord is the only survival tool you really need. If you have like 4 feet of that, you can throw the fucking knife away. You don't need it. Paracord and you're set. You can fish with it or knit it into a warm blanket or shelter or use it to garrote a tree beast for meat. The survival options are endless, so definitely more paracord, please. Final thoughts. This knife is fucking awesome. There's a reason that this design has persisted for 25 years with few changes. This is the knife that launched Microtech, and it wouldn't surprise me if they're still making them in another 25 years. There are a lot of great automatic folders on the market, but how many of them have been around for 25 years? And how many of them are made of the finest steel? And how many of them still look futuristic after so much time has passed? If you're looking for a nice auto folder, this is a good starting point, a great starting point, really. And it's also a big part of knife history in its way. Without the LUDT, would we have the Ultratech, the Combat Troodon, the Halo, the SOCOM? I don't know. This is a very important knife, and more importantly, it's a very cool knife. For me personally, this is by far my favorite auto folder. Thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. I'll talk to you all very soon. Good night.